Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. Apologies in advance. Very jet lagged still. My back is killing me from back-to-back 13-hour flights. And I was up in the middle of the night, wake up in the morning, take the kid to school, back to sleep, woke up again. Kind of The Walking Dead, a little bit of a zombie mode. But it's been 2 weeks since I've had a chance to talk Raiders with my boy Soto and all y'all Windbags. So I'm energized, despite playing hurt a little bit.
Good to have you back, man. I mean, my back hurts from carrying the show last week, so
I can imagine. I know a good chiropractor that can help you. And you're playing wounded today, playing hurt a little bit. I'm seeing that. Should I call the cops? Domestic dispute in the Soto household.
God, the cat. I don't know. He had a nightmare or something, but that's a puncture wound. It's not a scratch. It's a hole that he made in my face.
That's a veteran domestic abuser that knows how to injure you without leaving a big mark. You know, you can tell.
Well, he hit into something. He knocked into the door jamb or something.
Taking shrapnel from the cats. So
it's not my fault. It's my fault. I should have.
Your relationship with your cats never ceases to continue to evolve, or at least maybe this is how it's always been. And
we're evolved.
We're just seeing different versions
of violence.
It's like that happily married couple that you've known for 15 years and you thought they had the best relationship. Turns out he's been cheating on her and she's been beating him. And
one finds out, like one winds up in the freaking trunk of their car or something.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, the schedule release show you did, check it out. It was the Soto last week. Things are heating up, right? The draft is always huge, right? That's like we're talking about it forever and it happens. And then momentum starts kicking in. The NFL releases the schedule, and we are recording this Wednesday night, 3 days into OTAs.
Oh, yeah.
Players are together. They're in the facility. They're doing shit. Coaches are there. It's starting to heat up. Right? We always talk about how the offseason's a long, slow burn, but this is when the griddle really starts cooking. That's when you can start smelling dinner from the living room. You're like, oh, wife's getting going. I can smell it, and that's OTAs. Yeah.
So like it's like they're making the marinade, the roux. They're cooking it.
Yeah.
And then they put it in the oven because you still got to wait because that's like the dog days of like June where like nothing is going on, and then like late June, early July is when like training camp picks up. But for right now, it's OTAs. It's good stuff.
We're at the chopping phase. You can hear her in there chopping the vegetables right now.
The mise en place, if you will.
Yeah, now it's starting to she's making the sauce right now before the meat goes into the oven. So there's 7 OTA practices over the course of the coming weeks. Mandatory mini camp in June, 11 to 13, and then they head to our neck of the woods, Costa Mesa, for training camp.
Costa Mexico.
Did I tell you that I had the wife do some sleuthing because she works for hotels? I know exactly what hotel they're staying at. Yeah. I won't say it publicly. I don't want to get her in trouble. But if y'all want to know, hit me up privately. But I know where they're staying, so you can go sniff through Maxx Crosby's panty drawer if you want to.
Do you think we can set up a show in the lobby?
I mean, if we just
get our laptops right.
Yeah, we just have to stay there. We'll just get a room. We're just in town for a conference. Just here working. Hey, you can't kick us out. Here's my key card.
I think we should do it.
I'm so down. Rent a room.
We got to make some T-shirts, though. I didn't get to talk to you about this last week.
Go on.
But we have 2 opportunities because we have 2 LA games this year to tailgate the games, even if we don't go. I think it'll be a great time.
Do you want to tailgate and go or tailgate and not go?
I'd rather tailgate and not go.
Yeah. College football games, I love tailgating and going. NFL games, I don't know what it is. NFL games are just better on your couch.
The college games, you can tailgate, go, and then tailgate afterwards. Mm-hmm. The pro games will just kick you out. You got to go.
Well, like UCLA games, when we go tailgate, we tailgate for an hour and a half after, just because traffic getting out of the Rose
it's a golf course. It's huge, and it's a shit show getting out of there.
And you need
let everything go.
Yeah, it's like everyone bounce, and you'll just drink Coors Lights for an hour and a half to sober up, and then
You still have like half of your freaking deep fried turkey left.
Yeah, you're there. You're good. And the other part is I've accumulated so much amazing tailgating gear from people that are like drunk or forget it and just
they don't want to pack it. There's like
they don't want to pack it.
Just leave it there.
I've got folding tables. I've got coolers. I got all kinds of cool shit that people just like. And it wasn't like I'm stealing it. Like there's literally no one within 100 yards of me, and it's just sitting there. It's gonna get picked up and thrown away by some poor groundskeeper that's like, God damn it, they left another bullshit here. I'm doing the world a favor, and now I've got a sweet grill. He's
a philanthropist.
I am. I want to call myself a hero. I'll let others do that because I'm too humble. So there's been obviously a lot of coverage of OTAs. The last we're recording this on a Wednesday night, so it's been 3 days. And you know how we are here. We really like the Athletic. Sean Reed and Vic Tafer do a really great job. There's a lot of great
a lot of good writers on that.
A lot of good people that cover the Raiders. But is this kind of, we've had Vic on the show before. We can name the good guys all day long, but we would start missing them. But I like they kind of like put together just a really good, concise, like mixes of observations. And this is, of course, on top of all the other stuff we read, the tweets that we read, videos we saw, and stuff like that. But some of the major things that I think are the big takeaways of the first few days of OTAs is we're starting to see early predictions on who the starting quarterback is going to be. As of right this second, Farva is getting the QB1 reps, like the very first snap, right? He's, it means nothing, but it means something that he's immediately kind of the QB1. And we both kind of thought it was more with Antonio Pierce just really trying to hype him up and say, we believe in you, you're the man. And it's just kind of one of those things to get him going because Gardner Minshew needs that less than I feel like a second round or a second year, fourth rounder would. Just kind of, let's get him hyped up. Why not make him feel like the man, right? Sean Reed said that like no one really like blew anybody away in just the little bit that that's been going on so far, but that the better guy was Farva. And I think the exact quote he used was, Minshew will have to create more separation to take O'Connell's job. How much did you read into that?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like what we've been talking about. I think that we know what Minshew is. And kind of like what we talked about last year when we talked about if Jimmy G goes down, who's gonna start or who should start. We know what we're getting, or we know what we would have been getting last year with Hoyer.
Or not getting.
But when you put Farva in there, he's going to get better. So his ceiling is going to be higher if it's close. If it's close between Minshew and Farva, you got to put Farva in there. If it's close, because that's probably what you're going to get the entire season from Minshew. But if you put that little bit in the bank early in the year, it's going to get better and better and better from Farva.
Invaluable reps for a second year player. Again, especially a second year player in a brand new system, new offensive coordinator, new head coach. Last year was such a mess for a rookie, going from a coach leaving and the anarchy that ensued. And you really can't put a price tag on those.
Well, reps. Yeah. I mean, Farva said it, and we're going to cover this a little bit later, but he said it in an interview that all 6 years at Purdue, he had one offensive coordinator. That's unheard of. Yeah. And that he knew that it was going to change. Maybe he didn't realize it was going to change quite as quickly as it did.
Most marriages don't last that long, let alone
mine didn't last years. Mine lasted like a little, maybe 5.
Well, technically, legally, it lasted very long.
Jesus,
it's not in its actual form.
Oh, I don't even want to get into it.
I was going to wonder how much you were going to talk about it.
It gives me heartburn. I don't mind talking about it because it's just the dumbass luck that I have sometimes. So we got separated in late 18, and early 19. I was served papers, and I freaking filled everything out, and I gave it back to her or whatever, just to file everything, and she never did anything. And I never received anything in the mail. I just didn't think it was weird. Like, whatever. I did my part, right? Come to find out, like, maybe a little less than a year ago, that I really wasn't divorced. Like, she just didn't do anything with, like, she didn't file the rest of the paperwork. So I'm like, what? So then I had to go ahead and get it done, and it just got signed last Friday. So I'm very excited.
Single Soto First single Soto Raiders season in what, like a decade now?
Oh my God.
Wow. Expect big things. I'm expecting big things.
It's one of those things where it's like you think you're there and you're not, but then like when you're actually there, it just feels different.
I wonder if you're gonna the next time you have relations with a nice young lady, it's gonna be less guilty. You're like, wait a minute, I don't feel like no one's watching me now.
The guilt's how I get hard.
You're like, this isn't even fun anymore.
What gives me the stamina.
Well, I guess I got to cancel my Ashley Madison account. And there goes my fun.
There goes all that.
So I'm starting to keep track of the predictions of different media people on who they think is going to be the starting quarterback, because it's one of the more intriguing quarterback battles, I think, in the NFL.
There's only, besides the rookies, there's only a couple out there.
Like, really? And this is a true quarterback battle.
Yeah.
Like, if you know, I mean, there's no like, well, this is our guy unless something goes wrong. It's straight up like a true quarterback battle. So Tashawn Reed is not predicting far, like, you know, Aidan O'Connell, but he's kind of like, all right, well, he's in the driver's seat and Gardner needs to pick things up. Phil Simms was very confident that Gardner Minshew will be the starter week 1 and throughout the entire season. I'll be keeping an eye on what the media members are saying, because I'm very curious. I'm always curious what the inside thinks and what outside looking in, because I feel like I'm so much in the Raiders bubble sometimes, and like I forget like how the world views us, and that perception matters, right? Like how other people, you know, not that it matters like how I feel, but it's nice to see like, oh, that's a new way of looking at things because I've been in the fucking bubble forever.
Well, also it's always good to know what others from the outside think of you, because then you kind of know where their perspective is coming from when they write about the team.
Yeah.
If a guy's, you know, a little bit higher than most on it, and they just keep pumping out good stuff, it's like, okay, I got to take that with a grain of salt, because that's his kind of viewpoint already. And if you're like fuckface Florio, like everything he's saying about the Raiders is going to be negative because that's just how he is.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, not to like, you know, rub in the marriage thing. Actually, no, this is a happy time for you when it comes to marriage talk.
Yeah, it's happy. I'm happy, dude.
Our mutual friend of ours, whose birthday is tomorrow, we were talking about relationships, and he recently got divorced. And he said, I don't even know if I want to get married. RJ, you're literally the only happy man I know that's married. You're the only one I know in a good marriage. That's all. Because you think like, oh, you know, I fought with her and I want this to work out. And there's good times and there's bad times. You're like, oh, maybe it's not quite as bad. And I think that's the same thing too. I think that applies to football teams, because we know every single wart of this team. We know every single issue, every single problem, stuff simmering under the surface, things that are holding on by a thread. Like, we know that. And so we think like we want to be optimistic, and we're excited about our good players, and especially with a whole new regime, like it's optimism season, baby. Like that's what we're thinking about. But we know, quarterbacks aren't that great. The old line kind of pieced together. Can the defense pick up the momentum from last season? Like, these are all things on our minds. But then you realize every team has those same problems, if not worse. Like, every team is wondering like, oh fuck, is our line going to stick together? Oh man, our offensive coordinator and our quarterbacks coach are at each other's throats, and the starting linebacker hates the defensive coordinator. Like, every team is dealing with that. And so that adds a nice layer of like, yeah, we got like every marriage, every football team has its issues. So maybe it's not quite as bad as we think when you compare it to the other 31.
Yeah, so I've been doing some homework on all 32 teams, just, for some other stuff I'm doing. And I look at where we are as a team, and I think we're a lot better off than a lot of other teams, simply because of the clear direction. It's when you have an entire organization that has a clear direction, I think it's a lot easier to absorb some of these things, like a quarterback battle, which is the biggest thing you can have, like a question mark you can have on your team, right? Mm-hmm. So like a quarterback battle, like, some uncertainty on the offensive line, because not only did we lose a starter, but we lost quite a few. We lost 2 starters actually from last year, and we also lost 2 backups that played a lot of snaps last year. So that's a question mark. But as long as there's a clear path and a clear vision on a focal point far ahead, and everyone's moving towards that, it kind of work a lot of those little things out. And there's a lot of, as good as the season they had last year, there's a lot of shit going down in freaking Cleveland, Yep. Just keep an eye on that. Just keep an eye on that, okay? And there's a lot of good teams out there that's why it's so hard to be good for a long time, because you're talking about, 75 guys, whatever they're going to be on the squad, with practices and all, practice squad guys doing the team and all the coaches and all that stuff. It's like a lot of different mindsets and stuff like that. So having that, it's not anything to kind of glance over, to have a united front, a united team, a united organization. So that's a big positive.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit, but I'm going to say, like, the greatest contribution Josh McDaniels gave the Raiders is he just set up everyone to rally behind Antonio Pierce. Just like, please, God, save us from this sinking ship. AP, you're our only hope. Fucking
2 years after he dipped, 2 years after he got fired, they freaking Broncos made it to the freaking Super Bowl, dude.
Yeah. Another observation from OTAs: Tyree Wilson firmly behind Maxx Crosby and Malcolm Koonce on the depth chart. Patrick Graham, it still feels so good to say defensive coordinator Patrick Graham, that we were able to keep him for this season. Hopefully for many more, but we'll worry about that later. He's ours. He's ours.
Yeah,
ain't going anywhere this season.
Let's not look to like 25 season. Let's enjoy the 24 season.
Think happy thoughts, right? Patrick Graham is fucking ours. And he was talking about how Tyree Wilson played some defensive tackle, obviously, right, in the NASCAR package, and how that was great reps for him, and it was a different look, and a chance to my hands, blah, blah, blah. But your 6th overall pick is not starting in his second season. We gave him I felt like we were right, but very generous in the giant pass we gave him last season, because we knew he was drafted as a project to begin with, on top of the injury. So we were both like, look, if he gives us 12 sacks this season, pop the champagne, but pop the brakes. He's a project. He can't do OTAs, can't do preseason. He's still hurt. He's a long-term prospect. He's not a short-term prospect. Okay. And he still is that, but it is second season now. Second season. If he doesn't start, are we using the B word? Are we saying bust yet, or is it still too early?
Yeah, it's still too early, for the main reason that we've seen Malcolm Koonce come out party. We've seen that already. Mm-hmm. So we know that he is a kind of sneaky under the radar pass rusher. And the fact that he's using some of that, translating some of that power to be able to set an edge, he's much better against the run, especially at the end of the year last year. So I don't have a problem with him not starting, because in a league where you throw 30, 35, 40 times a game, you need another pass rusher. You need more than 2. So he's going to get plenty of opportunity to rush the passer. And there's going to be packages where all 3 of them are on the field at the same time. Mm-hmm. I'm not so much worried about him starting. I'm focused on his overall productivity while he's on the field.
He can't be a ghost like it was last season.
No, he has to put up numbers. He has to affect the game while he's in there. And I don't have a problem with him playing 60% of the defensive snaps. Because we have to take a look at it from this perspective. Maxx is going to take 95% of the snaps. Okay. So normally you would have a defensive end taking 75% of the snaps, and the other guy taking 75% of the snaps, or 60%. And the whatever's left over, the third guy takes up those, right? Yeah. So it's a closer match. But with Maxx not coming off the field hardly ever, that leaves fewer snaps for Koonce and Wilson to share. So I'm not so much worried about how much he plays. I'm worried about what he does while he's in there.
Thayer Munford is currently entrenched at the starting right tackle position, which shouldn't be a shock, because it's basically just DJ Glaze as the other potential starter, and he's 3rd round, right? 4th, 3rd. Glaze was 3rd.
Glaze was a 3rd rounder, yeah.
3rd round, right? So he's really the only competition. There's 2 positions, and the Raiders will have a ton of cap space that they need to address, and that's corner and right tackle. Short of them signing they sign someone you're like, okay, that's our starter. Like they sign a big splash signing. It feels like our starting O-line is set, pretty much. Kolton Miller, JPJ, Parham, James, and Munford.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah, that's about right.
I think so. We're set. What do we think about it?
I think it's fine in the respect that I don't see a tremendous drop off, if one at all, between Illuminor and Munford. I think Munford, when he played, I think he was fine. I think he was penalized a whole lot less than Illuminor, actually. And but Illuminor is a good player. He's his value is in his versatility, and we saw that when he had to play left tackle a few games with Kolton Miller out. We didn't see a drop off in the production of the offensive line, the time to throw, stuff like that. And that bodes well for Illuminor as well as for Munford, who had to go in at right tackle. I don't see that being a huge problem. I do see JPJ being a dramatic upgrade to Van Roten. Just about the same size, but younger, a little fresher legs. Maybe definitely not as experienced, especially in the NFL. But
and that's a big deal. I'm with you. Like clearly, let's get JPJ in there over. Like that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
But we need to be prepared that there's going to be some serious growing pains.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like even Kolton Miller, like my buddy who's a Charger fan, but went to UCLA when I was hyping up our O line like 3 years ago. It's like, I thought he sucked. It's like, no, he was injured his whole rookie year. He was a rookie and he was hurt. Like, you just judged him off that 1 year. So I'm with you. Like, we are so happy to have JPJ in there over Van Roten, but be prepared for growing pains. But every other position, they're all guys that are they're still young enough where they're getting better. Like, on paper, Kolton, Andre, certainly Parham, like, they should all be getting better every single year. They're still that young. They're not like starting to wane physically.
Yeah, I mean, and then you also have guys on the come up, like, an undrafted free agent from last season, like Dalton Wagner. He's, in another season along, and there's, some guys out there still, but again, rarely do you see a really good offensive line pay a lot of money to a later free agent in the offensive line. It's going to be a guy that fills a hole that you just give a little bit of money to, that just kind of plugs into a spot. Really good offensive lines don't spend a lot of money on these guys late in free agency. So I think we still have we're moving in the right direction, I think, with the offensive line, because there's a lot of youth and there's a lot of talent. The experience isn't there yet. I think Thayer Munford is going to be in his third season, right? For a seventh round, he's a steal for a seventh round pick. Yeah. I think it was an excellent choice. I'm a little bit more optimistic than most, I think, about the offensive line.
Well, we've been spoiled, I think, the last couple of seasons where they've been so much better than the sum of their parts, right? Yeah. Like, you just look at how many Pro Bowlers do we have on the line? How many first rounders? How many high priced? And they've played, not great, but certainly better than all of their respective. Like, we have undrafted free, seventh rounders, late dudes that are average or above, made a line that was above average in a lot of ways. And I think we've been spoiled by that, but hopefully that continues, right? Like, that's what we always talk about forever. Continuity, right? We're not signing stars to the old line. We're starting continuity, and whatever the formula is, it's been working. And it's been, we're returned three starters, right? Mm-hmm. And, JPJ is long-term drastic upgrade, at least projects to be, that we're all excited about. He should be long-term drastic upgrade after.
In the second round, you don't take an offensive lineman in the second round and don't play him,
especially a guard, right?
Yeah, you plug. I mean, if you're taking a guard that early in a draft, it's because you plan on playing him. So he should play, regardless if, let's say, for example, whoever's out there is maybe a little bit more further along. You take those lumps early in the season to get him up to where he needs to be, because you see the talent, and he is very talented. I was kind of interested to watch him play center, because he would be a huge center.
Yeah.
330 at center. That's big. That's a big boy.
That's a lot of love right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, maybe he still can, right? Like,
never know.
We got two guards that were supposed to be our future centers. So
yeah,
see what happens.
Screw it.
So the guy in charge of making all that work is Luke Getsy, offensive coordinator. So of all the moves the Raiders have made this offseason, this is the one I disliked the most, was the hiring of Luke Getsy. Now, there's been we've picked up random low-level players, but the risk was super low. You know what I mean? It's all right, I don't think this guy's going to make the team, but we signed him to $800,000, so whatever, right? And there's other moves that are higher risk, higher reward, right? Like Antonio Pierce. The history says interim coaches that get the full-time job, it doesn't pan out very often. History is going against AP, right? So, and it's high risk, high reward. If it doesn't pan out, it's going to be we should have known. The history said so, you idiots. Of course, we're hoping he does pan out. There's a lot of reason to be optimistic, right? Mm-hmm. Luke Getsy was the one that I was I don't get it. I don't get it. The Bears offense wasn't anything to write home about. Was it Justin Fields' fault? Was it Luke Getsy's fault? It just didn't seem like it was going to work. But it's his job to change my mind and change all of Raider Nation's mind that he's the right guy. The observation that Deshaun Reed of The Athletic made was that offensive coordinator Luke Getsy plans to be more flexible. But that's not what he's known for. You reminded me this whole conversation that we had all season and a half ago that I completely forgot, how Josh McDaniels was the same thing. Here's my system. You do it. It's perfect. My system is immaculate. It's God. And if you can't make it work, that's on you. That was Josh McDaniels' mindset. Mm-hmm. And the big litmus test, we're can you make Hunter Renfrow work? Because he's obviously got the skills to be 100 receiver, 100 reception, Pro Bowl player, but you got to make it work for him. You can't just say, you have to be this archetype that I've decided. Obviously, that didn't work out. Luke Getsy is, I think, kind of in a similar position where it's good that he's noticing that that's something he wants to improve on, but that's not his MO, Soto. His MO is not that he's Mr. Malleable in changing things.
I wouldn't go as far as say it's not his MO. I will say that I don't think he's had to as much. Mm-hmm. Because all his years with Green Bay, they ran the same system and everything was kind of humming along. He did change a little bit towards the end of the season after Justin Fields got back from being hurt. And he did change to a little bit more of a wide open type of offense. Unfortunately, for Justin Fields, he didn't have the weapons. He had one weapon and a good one in DJ Moore, but he didn't have the other weapons on the outsides to play that way. He had to play a more controlled offense to use Cole Kmet, use some of the running backs out of the backfield and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go as far as to say that he can't do it. It is going to be interesting to see how he chooses to attempt to do it. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm focusing on. I'm not going to say he can't do it because, what was that game? What was it against the Commanders when they put up 35 points in the first half? It was a Monday night, Thursday night game or something like that. Yeah, they were winning the ball, around the field, but he didn't have the weapons to do that every single week, and it just seemed like Justin Fields wasn't capable of having those grinded out drives and doing it with his arm. He did good things with Tyson Bagent when Bagent was in there, and Bagent is, he is extremely limited physically.
Yeah.
Okay. He's smart. He's tough, but physically his tools are just undrafted free agent for a reason. Okay. And he won some games, with Tyson Bagent. He beat us with Tyson Bagent. Right. So Getsy can do things and kind of adjust to his personnel. It's just, I think that we're looking at, or people look at him because of the failure of Justin Fields. And I think that it's not fair for him to take the brunt of that.
Well, he's yet to be able to prove his mettle, right? Because it's he had Aaron Rodgers, where it's we could be offensive coordinator for Aaron Rodgers and do okay. And then he had Chicago and didn't succeed, but that seems like an impossible place to get an offense going, is Chicago. And now he's in Las Vegas. And he has his hands full here, right? Let's call a spade, right? Let's not blow smoke. Let's not blow rainbows up everyone's asses. Our quarterback situation is not optimal. Gardner Minshew or Farva. Like, we're hoping for the best. I think it's very fair to be very optimistic about Aidan O'Connell, considering how, he played pretty well to close out last season after Josh McDaniels fiasco, not truly being QB1 till later in the season, and, fourth round pick, like blah, 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 blah. And still, like, towards the end of the season, he started playing pretty well. There's reasons for optimism, but that's all it is right now is optimism. It's not, he's proven to be something. He's got that to worry about. He has an O-line that, again, on paper, just pure personnel wise, probably below average. A unit that's been playing better than itself, which we're hoping is going to continue. And the other part is you have a first round tight end, I'm using quotation marks, that you have to be flexible for. Everything I read about Brock Bowers from the analysts was, what a great player. Oh my God, what a steal for the Raiders. If, capital I, capital F,
Luke Getsy
can make him work, because he's not a tight end, like a true tight end. You're like, all right, line up next to the tackle. Half the plays you block, half the plays you run routes. Like, that's not him. Not him at all. Like, sometimes he's a slot receiver. Sometimes he's on the line. Sometimes he's out wide. Sometimes he's a halfback. He was in the Wildcat a couple times at Georgia, right? Like, you have to scheme for Brock Bowers to get the most out of him. And if you're going to spend that kind of, and again, I'm not a guy where it's like the whole team has to change for a player, but if you're going to use that type of draft capital, you got to make it work. Like, you got to maximize the things you've invested heavily in. And that includes Davante Adams, who's getting so much money. You got to make him work. You got to make Brock Bowers work, and you have to make it work with Farva or Minshew. So, in fairness to Getsy, if he doesn't succeed, he does have his hands full. Like, it is a Rubik's Cube, the Raiders offense this upcoming season. Not bad, because there's obviously tons of talent there. It's not certainly not impossible, but it is a calculation. It's not arithmetic. It's calculus to make this offense work next season.
I don't see it being as difficult as that. I think that they did a lot with Cole Kmet in Chicago, because, like I said, they didn't have another guy out wide that can win consistently. So a lot of times, even against us, they motion Kmet to be an outside receiver. So he's used to finding a matchup, and with the matchup, having a call to adjust a specific player within a scheme, within a game plan. Mm-hmm. So he's shown that he can do that. We don't know that Brock Bowers is quite as accomplished in all the areas that Cole Kmet has shown that he is, which is his inline blocking and stuff. He's a bigger guy. He's a better inline blocker. We think, because we haven't seen, Bowers play against pros. So that's kind of where the little illusion comes from, because he can be inline and block or go out on a pattern and be, like an equal threat. Cole Kmet could. So we don't know that with Bowers yet, but I see once you find a formula, it's just about plugging in the different numbers, which are the different plays, and finding different areas for him to attack. Mm-hmm. I think for him, it's going to be attacking areas of the field, not so much matchups, because he has a matchup advantage versus he's bigger and stronger than safeties and DBs, and he's faster and quicker than linebackers. So it's more so for him attacking areas of the field than the player. He's got a good problem to have. He's got a lot of good, versatile players. I think Davante Adams is still our best slot receiver, even though he's also our best outside receiver. And you have, Jacoby Myers, probably 2 and 2. You have 2 very good tight ends, one who's excellent. You have, a running back that has shown if, he makes the team and everything goes the way we think it's going to go, who you drafted late in the draft, who is probably the best route running back in the draft.
Is it Dylan Laube or Laube?
I thought it was Laube.
Laube?
I thought it was Laube.
I like Laube better.
Laube.
Laube.
I don't know. I need
Basinger?
to ask him. I cannot pronounce.
Basinger? Kim Bassinger? Bagasinger?
But so he has a lot of versatile weapons, and I don't see that being an issue. I just see it being more of like.
Well, that goes more to my point is no one is plug and play. It's, this guy is not your typical tight end. This guy is not your typical running back. This guy is not your typical whatever. You need to make those formulas, which is, again, it could be a good or bad problem to have. Yeah. If you're a system for Josh McDaniels, it'd be a nightmare because I need you to be this.
I think, wait, if I'm hearing you correctly, I think if you line up Brock Bowers as a typical tight end, play in and play out, I think he would be above average to good. You wouldn't get the most out of him, but he's that good of a player where he would still be a pretty good tight end. Just like if you...
I think blocking, he would get beat up his rookie year, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he'll get better, but over time,
yeah,
I think just the extras he can do, the little extra sprinkle on top on the side is what's going to separate him from others, where he can do extra things, but he can also do what a normal tight end does. And I think that's the same with Davante Adams. It's the same with Jacoby Myers. It's the same with Dylan Laube if he gets, if he becomes what I think he can be, pass catching wise. So I don't see it being a problem as far as like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? It's more so of let me get the formula down, and then I can plug in different numbers, and the formula will still work.
Well, it's maximizing it with I'll be generous, young quarterback situation. That's the issue. That's the challenge. That's the challenge, is getting the ball to the right guys with, again, we're being optimistic about our quarterbacks, but that's all it is right now is optimism.
Hey, look, so I had a little bit of a discussion with a guy. He put something up. This is, Josh Allen's numbers in 13 games, his rookie season. This is, Favre's in 12 games. And of course, Josh Allen's numbers were better, but like the completion percentage was lower, the touchdown, a lot more interceptions, stuff like that. And yes, there was a jump from year 1 to year 2, and then a bigger jump from year 2 to year 3 with Josh Allen. But he had an advantage that cannot be fixed by personnel. Is he just has a lot better physical tools, which allow him to do more things. We talked about this before. Aidan O'Connell's, his sweet spot's a little bit more narrow because he doesn't have those physical tools to be able to overcome certain things, and he has to do them a specific way. He can't do it multiple different ways. He can't make plays down the field by circling out and running and making guys miss and creating more time and throwing off his back foot with enough velocity to get the ball there. Like, he can't do that because physically that's not his strength, right? Whereas other quarterbacks can. So he has to do things a little bit more on time and a little bit more balance and, with his feet under him a little bit easier. So there can be strides moving forward, but initially, especially the first maybe 2 or 3 seasons, just like very similar to a Tom Brady type, where he didn't have those physical tools, but he learned to get into that role, is the defense carried Tom Brady the first few seasons. And I think the defense is going to have to carry Aidan O'Connell the first few seasons until he gets more experience under him.
And the Raiders have better skill players than Tom Brady did really early as well.
And that was one of my arguments too with Josh Allen. Hey, shut up. You hear this fool talking shit?
Yeah, well, he's got a scar on your face. I think he's in charge today. He's like, bitch, look in the mirror. I'm in charge. That cut on your face.
I'm the captain. Shut up.
Well, speaking of Aidan O'Connell, he was on our new favorite podcast, Rush, with Maxx Crosby. If you missed the Gardner Minshew interview, this is the second time we're telling you to go watch it. It's great. And Aidan and Farva was on there, and it was awesome. They called him Farva, talked about his mustache,
they introduced him as Farva.
It was so good. It was
Aidan O'Connell, Farva, the stash.
There's a comment section. I don't know if it was in the YouTube or where I saw it, but it was just like, this is like when the little brother finally gets to hang out in his older brother's room and hang out with his friends. Like, that's kind of what it felt like, You should listen to the whole thing. But one thing that kind of made the news, right? It's the thing that makes every episode makes news, and this is the one that did. And I don't think I ever got your official take on this, Soto, but I think you're kind of like me, where jersey numbers I don't give a shit about. I don't care. It's like, oh, that was so and so's number. It's like it's a number. I don't care. It's not like if you're gonna retire a jersey number and then like bring it back or not, like it's like that's kind of weird. But other than that, I mean, I don't make a big deal about jersey numbers at all. It's I don't care. But some players and coaches do. To some, it's a pretty big deal. And so when Aidan O'Connell wore Derek Carr's number 4, literally while that number 4 still smelt like Derek Carr's cologne, there's a lot of people that kind of raise their eyebrows a little bit. And now that Aidan O'Connell switched to number 12, the Tom Brady number, everyone's like, oh, why? Why'd that happen? Here's his answer.
Just didn't want to be 4 anymore. I didn't pick 4. I was actually 9, and then Tyree wanted 9, so they gave 9 to Tyree. That was like in the first week I was here last year, and then they gave me 4, and I was, as a rookie, you just kind of do what you're told, and so I was cool with it. And then when the offseason ended, I'm like, this is Derek's number. He wore it for that long, and he's a franchise leader and all this stuff. It felt disrespectful, so I just wanted to kind of give that back to him, and yeah.
So that's ultimate respect right there.
So Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler forced number 4 on Aidan O'Connell. Yeah. That has to be the pettiest. Like, I don't give a fuck that it's there. Like, I don't care. Again, like I said, numbers don't matter to me. I don't care. Like, oh, I gave his number 4. Derek Carr's going to be pissed. Who cares? He's the same. But just the fact that, like, trying to get one on Carr was a thing that went through Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler's mind when he was already ran out of town, just goes to show you, like, what a poisonous, petty duo they were. Like, what a, like, smarmy, shitty thing to do. And to put your rookie quarterback, like, kind of in that situation.
In that position.
Like, Favre's like, as soon as I can get rid of it, I did. Because that seems disrespectful to me. Like, again, I don't give a fuck. But Favre, it's important to him, right? He's the NFL player, not me, right? So if the jersey numbers, that's something that's important to him, then more power to you. Like, change it or do whatever. But whether it was Josh McDaniels or Dave Ziegler or both or whoever, like, what a fucking smarmy move to put your rookie quarterback in that situation.
You play politics or you play football. You don't play both at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? And what I talked about earlier about having that goal, everyone's moving towards that same goal. Politics is not part of that goal. Right? So those stupid things like starting and sticking with Hoyer for your stupid ego instead of putting a guy who can get better results in, that's ego. That's playing politics, right? And that's why they're no longer here. What happened with Marcus Peters when he wasn't doing shit? What did AP do? Yo, bro, you got to go. If you can't give the effort that we're looking for, it's everybody. It's not just me. It's not just the young guys. Everyone's got to do it. You can't do it. See ya. And he was gone.
Look at what a difference Josh McDaniels versus Antonio Pierce have handled Aidan O'Connell. Now, again, 4th rounder from Purdue. He's not like your superstar you have to baby or anything. All AP has done. God, he's awesome. He's our QB1. We're making him the starter. It's his job to lose. I believe in him 100%. This is the man. I'm giving him every opportunity to succeed because I know he can do it. Everything.
On the other hand,
and on the other hand, you have Josh McDaniels like, I'm going to use him as a pawn for my petty, smarmy, petty little deal.
On the other hand, this isn't the preseason. Oh, I hated that line so much. I'm like, this guy's a freaking moron. But look, I mean, we can say that he's a 4th round quarterback because he is. The fact of the matter is, had he played as good or better than he did the year before, when he had more continuity with his personnel, with his teammates, and his brother didn't just die before the season started, he had if he would have played like that, he would have been an early day 2 pick. He would have been in the top half of the 2nd round if he played the way he did the year before. But a lot of things happened to Favre's senior season. His quarterback coach changed. He lost his 3 best receivers. His best returning receiver was suspended most of the season. His brother died. A lot of stuff was happening. He still had a decent season, but he outdueled Hendon Hooker in the Motor City Bowl. Dude, he was a guy that was like on the radar. Like, okay, this guy can, let's see how he does again. He dropped off, and good thing for us, he did, because I think we got an early day 2 quarterback in early in day 3 last season.
In news,
oh please,
not Raider news, kind of Raider news.
Funny news,
fun news. Antonio Brown filed for bankruptcy. Currently owes 8 creditors nearly $3 million. In Chapter 11 filing, Brown claims he has less than $50,000 in assets. He earned $88 million over his Hall of Fame level career, and he's filing bankruptcy. I can't wait. I wish I was a fly on the wall when he calls his accountant a cracker for ruining his finance.
Do you remember that movie Greed? Have you ever seen that movie? So it's Michael Douglas, like Michael J. Fox. You put funny guys. Phil Hartman's in it. So it's an older guy who's filthy rich. He's in a wheelchair, right? He's just an older dude, Michael Douglas.
Oh, and they're all trying to get the inheritance.
Yeah.
Right? Old school movie.
Okay, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Anyway, if it turns out that he doesn't need the wheelchair. It was an act to see who really loved him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when all the family thinks he lost all his money, he's like, how could you lose $100 million? And he's like, he takes his hat off. He's like, it's a lot easier than you think. Oh, what a great freaking movie. Olivia Daub was in it too, the freaking Australian hottie. Oh my God. Bang it. If anyone knows her, let them know I'm looking for her.
Yeah, it's so weird how a guy that seems so rational and controlled in his entire life wouldn't be that way with his finances.
How much was that fine for beating off in the pool?
Probably not that much. But you go through all the shit that he's faced. He is so stupid with money. He bought that.
Okay, first off, I'm sorry. I hate to cut you off.
Okay.
Take off with money. Take that away.
Just stupid.
He is so stupid. Stop.
So
and with spending money, but also with we know of him skeeting on a chick's back. We know of one that he had to pay off. How many more were there that he had a Vince McMahon? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's not even okay, that's just I think I can get away with it. I think I can get away with it. And if I have to pay him off at the end, that's bad enough, but that's not even anywhere near as bad as I'm talking about. He just multiple times just doesn't pay his bills. He's your buddy in junior college that racks up $3,000 in overdraft fees because he'll have $3 in his checking account, but he'll go to the ATM and take out $20 every day. I had a roommate like that my junior year. He was just so freaking stupid with money. He would have a $37 overdraft fee every time he tried to get $20 out of the bank. And he would literally had more fees and overdraft fees than his parents were sending him in money. That's Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Just not paying guys. It's why didn't you just pay your mover the $10,000 you owed him? Now you have to pay him $60,000.
I used to live with a buddy, and that's back when we still had video stores where you go rent videos, right? It was before Netflix and all the streaming services and all that stuff. And he racked up $400 in rental fees. Mm-hmm. So I take the house card to go down to the music, the Video Plus down the street, right? It wasn't even a big chain like a Blockbuster or anything, right? It was a Video Plus. And I go in there and they're like, sorry, man, we can't rent you anything. I'm like, dude, why not? I haven't been here in a month. He's like, yeah, man, your buddy keeps coming in here and I'm renting 2-3 videos. And I'm like, please don't tell me he's renting the $8 a day videos. Those are the pornos, right? Mm-hmm. I'm please don't tell me it's the expensive ones. What has he been doing? $400. That's 50 pornos.
Only behind the
beads.
The beads. Yeah.
God damn. It's always why always the red light back there? I don't get it.
Because if it was a blue light, you don't want to know what you're going to see.
Yeah, that's
You try
true.
to hide it all.
Yeah, I was so pissed. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to watch freaking. Well, I don't know what the movie I was trying to watch, but I was trying to rent something. I was like, man, I can't even watch like the movie like I want to watch. So like everyone else, I called mom.
Well, it's like, and so there's like the legal stuff. You're like, okay, that's just reckless, and then there's just like stupid. Remember in March of 2023 when he bought the Albany Empire, the like arena football league?
God, no wonder he freaking lost all his money.
Well, all right. So he bought the league. He bought the team for $350,000. The team was kicked out of the league because he didn't pay $1,000 fine. Like he was fined $1,000 for just doing something. He didn't do it. So his $350,000 investment went kaput because he wouldn't pay $1,000 fine. Like he's that stupid.
Wait, he still has to pay their contracts. So all the contracts that he had to pay for them,
players,
everything, because everyone who was under contract, not an employee of the team, but a contract employee, he still had to pay him out. I can see it now.
Like again, there's just like, all right, I'm reckless, but I think I can buy my way out of it. And then there's just like, I'm not going to give you this $1, even though it means you're going to give me 100. Like, no, I'm going to hang on to my $1. Like.
It's my dollar.
What? Like,
yeah.
What?
I just don't get it. I mean, I get it because it's him, but it doesn't make sense.
Do you want full proof that the Kansas City Chiefs legacy is coming to an end?
What's that?
Patrick Mahomes. Look how chubby this motherfucker is. Strolling into OTAs.
Dude, the chub rub is real.
Boiler out. Look at that spare tire. I'm getting turned on a little bit by those tits.
Yeah, he's got some fat pair of titties.
He is getting so much hate.
He's been eating
in this video.
He's been eating some mac and cheese with
he's been eating those tacos and burritos in Mexico. Remember when he got harassed by Raiders fans in Cancun like 2 weeks ago? He was down there for like a month. Eating nothing but pastor.
That'll get you. That'll get you. I mean, the pastor isn't the problem; it's the tortillas that'll get you.
He's carbing up, right? That flour,
carbs. Yeah.
Look at this chubster. It's official. It's official. It's over. Dynasty's over. He's out of shape. Gonna get hurt.
He ain't down here. Look how low his socks are. He ain't down. Shit, sock checked out full.
Those are baggy shorts last season. Now that
dude, look at it. He has childbearing hips, dude.
Maybe he's pregnant.
He could pop a couple kids out. Joke's on him. Those narrow hips. You can't have more than 5 or 6 children.
6 or 7 children.
Where's that from?
Let us know in the comments. Best bowling movie ever made.
God, such a great movie.
It's one of the best sports movies ever. It's just because it's just so fucking funny.
It is, man. It is, definitely. That's a hilarious movie. But this is even funnier because, like, he's like this specimen and all this like greatest player of all time type of shit. And he comes in here and I'm like, bro, what have you been doing? Been hitting the banquet circuit or something?
It's so satisfying when the best quarterback in the NFL is more out of shape than I am. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I can still suit up. Look at Patrick Mahomes, Mr. Flubster.
Well, and then you hear Farva talk. He stayed at the facility all year working out with Maxx and the boys who stuck around, because he's like, look, first off, it's the best facility out there. You're not going to find a better facility than what the Raiders have for you. The only thing that you can't do at the facility is grab a touch of football. You can do everything else. You can do drills. You can work out. You can prehab, rehab, all that stuff. You can do all that motion, mobility, flexibility. You can do all that stuff. And with your boy Alex Guerrero, right? And just go across the street to the high school and throw the ball there.
Yeah.
And the weather was a positive and everything too. But my God, it's just if you take a look at Farva, like he still has that chubby little face, but it's a little thinner. The arms look a little beefier. Like, all right, we may work with a little something over here.
Growing up a little bit.
There you go. Mustache getting a little thicker.
Raiders and Windbags?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Sam Demand, thank you so much for being a member. An
Thanks,
official
Sam.
windbag. Really appreciate it. If Tomlin was white, they would have fired him a long time ago. Are we really thinking Tomlin should be fired? The guy hasn't had a losing record his entire career. And also, it's the Steelers. They don't fire coaches in Pittsburgh.
So I would
really
say
think
this.
it's a race thing?
I think that if he was white and it was a different organization, he would have been fired a long time ago. I think if he was just the regular Mike Tomlin that we know and it was a different organization, he would have been fired a long time ago. I think that second season after Big Ben was gone, I think that was the season that did it.
I think look, maybe race is a bigger factor than I'm giving it credit to, but I think it's more of a Pittsburgh thing where they hire coaches for forever. Like Cowher was there forever. Tomlin's been there forever. And they don't fire coaches. They don't. And I'm not saying that Mike Tomlin should or should not be fired. Because I think because everyone's like, well, look, he's 173-100. Like he's never had a losing record. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, well,
he also doesn't have a playoff win in like 10 years.
And it's also the Steelers. Like, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, but this is a premier franchise. Like this is a well-run franchise with a ton of Super Bowls and a ton of success in multiple decades. Just like, hey, we haven't had a losing record. That shouldn't be good enough in Pittsburgh, right? It's like the Lakers. Like if you're not in the Western Conference Finals, the season is a failure. The Dodgers, if you're not in the World Series or winning it with like this roster, it's a failure. That's how this isn't Carolina.
So good.
This isn't Houston where it's like, oh well, he hasn't a losing record. Like good, like we're doing pretty good for us. It's like this. No, this is a franchise that demands more.
Yeah, I think because of Tomlin's winning. I think if you take a look back at the last time that Pittsburgh was, I wouldn't even say make the playoffs because, we made the playoffs a few years ago, but I'm talking about like in the mix of being one of those teams who can make it to the Super Bowl or even win it. It's been about 10 years.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Even the last few Big Ben years, they weren't really a contender to really, do anything crazy. They had a year, I think, where they were like 10-0, and then they ended up like 11-6 or something like that, something crazy. But I think there's some validity to what he's saying, but I think the bigger influencer isn't his race. I think it's the city where he coaches.
What if he were Asian? Would he be fired or keep his job?
I'm not gonna go there. That's something I was going to say, and I was like, no, I can't say it.
What if he was in Eskimo?
I've been watching way too much Bad Friends. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a hilarious podcast with Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino. And they are just
those names alone. You're like, okay, those comedians with those names.
So freaking funny. And they just throw race to the wind. They don't give a shit. They just go at it. And it's so hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. And I almost said something that I would have regretted, so I'm not going to say it.
What the Windbags needs is we need you to be more Mexican and then third dude who's like a black guy. So then we can have people actually be honest. Because you and I are like we're both afraid to be getting canceled. But if we just like round it out, where it's like,
I'll say white shit to you because you're my friend. And like if I'm saying it to you, it's not a big deal. If you say Mexican stuff to me, it's not a big deal. But like, we can't involve anybody else. We need an Asian guy. We need a black dude.
We need a guy in a wheelchair.
No,
so we can make fun of cripples. Yep.
I don't think you can either, man.
Gay guy.
That's tough.
Do we want a gay or a trans?
Can we have both?
I mean, we can just bang it all out in one. A gay trans guy in a wheelchair.
Who's Blasian, half black and half Asian.
Half black Asian. There we go.
God, that would be good. If you know anybody, send them our way.
Who's a Raider fan?
We're hiring.
Checks every box. We need to really diversify our opinions we're able to say.
Diversify our bonds.
David Kellenberger, 3955. Week 6 through 11 will make or break us. So you did a full schedule release show. So go back if you want the full part of it. But this is my chance to kind of just chime in a little bit. Here it is. the schedule. So 6 through 11 is
Steelers, Rams, Chiefs,
Bengals, bye,
Dolphins.
That's a meaty middle. That's a meaty middle right there.
But you know what I love? After that second KC game, it's smooth sailing because those are all very, very, very winnable games.
Mm-hmm.
We got the Bucks, we got the Falcons at home, we got the Jags at home. We're at the Saints, and then we got the Chargers at home. Those are 5 games that can get us right to end the season.
And even like, the KC game, it's at KC, but even before that, it's Broncos. It's like really just one game. Really tough game in the last 7.
That's a trap game. Look at the game before and after that.
Mm-hmm. And the bye before, that should help. Yeah.
I think a week 10 bye is good. Because
I'm more worried about our start. I'm more worried about us coming out of the gate. Chargers, Ravens, Panthers, Browns.
Oh, speaking of Panthers, I'm going to that game. So there's a Windbag fan, and he hit me up, and I'm gonna read you what he wrote. It's freaking hilarious.
Okay.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. RJ's hairline.
We'll never know. I wear a hat.
We'll never know. So this guy, he's like, "Yo, man, I want to invite you. I have I have a suite, and I sell most of the games, but I go to a few. And let's link up when the schedule comes out, and we'll talk about my boy Rafi." And he's like, "No," oh, I'll get you a room comped in Vegas. He's like, "Separate room, you weirdo." You made make sure it was a separate room.
They say that, but
I'm going to go to that game. I may have to do the whole fly in, fly out the same day. I think I have fights the day before. So I might not be able to spend the night in Vegas, but
he's bummed.
But separate rooms, bro. Separate rooms.
They're conjoined. Those rooms.
No conjoined rooms either. I need a separate
with the door in between. You guys share a bathroom type of thing.
I'm not gonna do that. Nah, that's not gonna work.
Like, hey, I have an extra robe in here. Do you want to borrow it?
I don't need any extra anything. No. I air dry. Thank you.
Last one, James Harry 4587. You have to explain the context of this one to me. Calling Raider fans who are rooting for a second-year, fourth-round quarterback a cult is interesting, coming from the wife of the president of the Derek Carr fan club. So I'm assuming I'm the president of the Derek Carr fan club, and you're my wife.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay.
The wife of the president of the Derek Carr fan club. Yeah, that's I'd have to watch the episode.
Okay. Did you call people rooting for Farva a cult?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
We've been rooting for him harder and long. We've been rooting for him longer than probably 99% of Raider Nation.
One of the things that I think that I try not to fall into, but I catch myself most of the time when I do, is when someone doesn't agree with me 100%, I attack. And a lot of people would do that. So I try to hear them out. And as long as there's some logic behind what they're saying, okay. Once I catch them in a lie, then I'm going to call them out, my buddy. But yeah, we've been doing this far. But dude, what are you doing? Now you're getting jealous? Look at these guys. Don't leave me alone.
God, I hope they would just claw you in the face right now on camera.
Yeah, that's why I'm keeping them away from my face. I don't know if you saw that.
That's why you wear glasses. You actually have 20/20 vision. You just need eye goggles and protection.
I wish. This eye's hurting. This eye hurts. This eye's hurting right here. This is the one that got the brunt from the accident. This is the one that caught the brunt of that.
That's the one that twitches from the Paul Gunther defense days.
Yeah. That's when I see the defensive call. 32 different calls for third down. What? But no, I think that you and I have been probably we're skating that line between optimism and realism, right? I think we've been very real, but in an optimistic sense, with an optimistic shade on it.
Yeah,
because we do want him to do well, and we think that he can do well. It's just going to take some time. And the only big question mark that we have when you want to develop a young quarterback is the skill set and the skill level of the two most important people to him, which is the offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach. If they can work with Aidan O'Connell and get the most out of him and get him ramping up to a very steep, curve and get him up quickly, I think he can have a very, very good career. But ultimately, it's going to take that because he has the weapons. He's going to have, the support of the staff and the franchise, and he's going to have good leadership on the team already. So those are all big pluses to kind of catapult him forward. It's the development. It's the little things here, and there's the development of making him a better quarterback.
Well, there's two things here for me. Gardner Minshew and Aidan O'Connell are really great stories. Like, they're guys you root for. Gardner, a 6th rounder, played great at certain points, is able to stick
in a van down by the river.
You look at all the quarterbacks drafted ahead of him that draft in rounds like 2, 3, 4, and 5. None of them are in the league anymore or did shit. Here he is, still getting paid, still playing, still, could start right in a quarterback battle right now in a premier franchise. And then same thing with Farva, everything he went through, like you mentioned, his senior season, losing his brother, 4th rounder, looks like Farva, looks like a 16-year-old, and went through everything with Josh McDaniels, got disrespected, just kept his head down, worked hard, and played well towards the end. Like, these are guys that are easy to root for, and we want them to do well. But don't confuse that with, well, we're going to make sacrifices against the team so that they do succeed. We're trying to put the best quarterback that we can feasibly get our paws on under center as our QB1. Now, if these guys do, either one of them do end up being our Pro Bowler and our franchise quarterback, that's awesome. And then that story is part of that, right? Is when they are successful, that story makes it better. But it's not you're clinging onto them because they're likable. It's like, oh, he's so good, such a good guy. Let's give him another shot. It's like he either can do it or he can't. And if he can, then that story's part of it. If he can't, that story's not going to save him. Don't confuse the two. Like, they're both super likable and rootable, but the most important thing is they produce.
It's a production-based business, baby. It's production. This is the closest you're going to get to commission-based sales than anything. It's production-based.
And the second part is, it's exactly the same thing in the offseason when Antonio Pierce was trying to get the starting job. People are saying like, well, he earned it. He did enough where he should have it and it be fair. It's like, no, it's not about what's best for Antonio Pierce. It's what's best for the Raiders. We should be trying to get the best possible coach we can. Now, I agree, the way things turned out, it ended up being AP. But I think too many people were thinking about it reverse. It's, well, he did so well, and people like him so much, and like, what else could you ask for him to do? Like, maybe there's nothing he could do, right? Maybe there was literally nothing that Antonio Pierce could do to earn the job because there was someone better that we wanted, right? That could have been a possibility. That's how you need to look at things. Same thing with Aidan O'Connell. It's not like, well, what else do you want him to do? It's like, maybe there's nothing he can do because we got a guy that's better, and that's football, and that's how it should be. So I think those two things are important to look at when you talk about Aidan O'Connell. It's like, I like him so much and he's worked so hard. Like, great, that's what we want. But who is the best person to put their hand in between Andre James's taint, get that ball, and win us games? That's all that matters. The rest is fluff. The rest is fun for us to talk about. There's a difference there.
Huge difference. And like, what we're talking about is the minimum. He should be a good teammate. He should work hard, right? He should be a good leader. That's all stuff that you want coming in the door, and also needs to produce on the field. So when we start putting an emphasis on the things that don't directly win games and that maybe indirectly win games, things that indirectly win games don't win you as many things as things that directly win games. And I would trade an asshole that can sling it on the field for a good old, buddy that's just mediocre on the field. And that's just me. But ultimately, I think we have we have the off the field stuff with Aidan O'Connell. Let's just see if his on the field can catch up and surpass that.
All right, so that's it for us. We might have to do a little early next week. The travel schedule gets a little crazy, but maybe we'll send this a day early next week. We'll keep you posted.
Ooh, teaser.
And as OTAs start to wind down, we'll keep you abreast of everything. Make sure you stay here on the channel. I'm back, baby. China ain't going to keep me away from y'all too long.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Until then, knock on wood if you're with me.